food is taxed because anything that involves transportation is subject to increase because of the carbon tax. And the whole notion that people are actually getting more money back is so laughable. They must really think that we're idiots.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox.
So we're really happy today because we're going to be reconnecting with somebody that we interviewed last summer while we were out at our trip to New Brunswick at Ocean River RV Resort. It's a fantastic location. It looks like God just, stepped down and made a little spot of heaven for you to camp in, whether you are going tent camping or RV or trailer. We had the privilege of being out there for about a week, and we didn't want to leave. So if you're ever out in Tabasantac, New Brunswick, that's the place to go. We are privileged enough to have former Member of Parliament David Sweet on with us again. So David, welcome back to the show.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here, and I just want to thank you up front for the great job you're doing in making sure the Canadians get the full story of what's happening in Ottawa.
Well, we're certainly trying that.
That's right. We try our best. We've made a few upgrades since we spoke to you last, as you can probably see. We don't have the weird floppy puppets anymore.
Yeah, we've made a few enhancements, but a lot of that is attributed to the feedback and the support of our channel, which we've seen a lot of people get more interested in politics. A lot of people credit Northern Perspective with being interested in politics when they never thought they ever would be. And we just count that as a good thing, because the more people that are paying attention to what's going on in Ottawa, the more we can hold this government to account. So we know that you've been out of the game for a couple of years now, so we're not expecting to get any inside information from you, David. But you've no doubt seen at least what's been in the headlines going on with how Trudeau has approached what's going on in Gaza, how much, what they've been doing in terms of the carbon tax coming up on April 1st, and all of the things in between that are coming out just with the SDTC scandal, the Arrive scandal. So I guess my first question is just from a peripheral standpoint, have you ever seen a Canadian government with more scandals concurrent than this Trudeau government?
No. And what's amazing is the magnitude of the scandals. I'm trying to think of how many years ago it was. It was probably 12 or 15 years ago. But the big scandal for us, when I say us, we were in government, the Conservative Party at that time, and one of our ministers had purchased a $16 orange juice in Europe, and that was a grave scandal.
I remember that.
Orange juice gate.
Yeah. So now we're talking, tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of millions. What was it? I think the gentleman who brokered the deal with the software people that really didn't produce anything in the Arrive scam. I think he admitted that he got 1.25 million for not really doing any work, just brokering the thing. And so it's unprecedented. And like I said, I'm glad that you and many others are, pulling the curtain back and letting people see exactly what's going on and how their, hard-earned money that they're taxed, how it's being, erroneously spent.
Yeah, and it couldn't be done at a worse time, because as you know, as we know, Canadians across the country are, I'll just say it, they're suffering. They don't know what to do on a day-to-day basis in order to pay the bills, or which bills they should pay and which bills they should leave for a month in order to continue on. And you have all of these tax dollars that are just being misspent, mismanaged, and when they're called out at committee, the ministers say, oh, well, I didn't know about that. That's not my responsibility. That's somebody else's. Go ask them. And then you pull them in front of committee. Oh, well, that's not my responsibility. My staff didn't inform me. Go ask somebody else. Ministerial accountability, it has just degraded into a cushy job where you sit back in a leather chair, take your $20 now glass of orange juice, and put your thumb up at the Canadian people, and you have no responsibility of what's going on in your ministerial agencies. So, what is your reaction, having been in government and then seeing the way this Trudeau government is now operating in terms of their blatant disregard for Canadians?
Well, I was fortunately in with one of the best finance ministers ever, with Jim Blair, and I know the painstaking efforts that he made to make sure that as much as possible every penny was spent with the greatest level of stewardship, knowing that I was coming from Canadian citizens that many times are living paycheck to paycheck. And I think that's, there's a couple of aspects here. We could go on for a long time, but the first one is, as I've already said, the careless way that and really dishonest way that this government has been treating people's money is reprehensible. But also, they are such elitists that they don't understand that there's many people that live paycheck to paycheck, and this whole notion that the carbon tax is you're going to get more money back after you've spent your money for a quarter of the year before you get a rebate, and you're trying to put gas in your car to get to work, and it's taxed, and all of your food is taxed, because anything that involves transportation is subject to increase because of the carbon tax. And the whole notion that people are actually getting more money back is so laughable. They must really think that we're idiots.
They must, because even just from a mathematical perspective, it doesn't work out. And people may say, well, the elites are going to pay more in carbon tax. Well, I don't think so. And plus, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation released some findings that in order to actually administrate the carbon tax, the government is spending over $200 million. So you have $200 million that comes out of all of that revenue that's coming in. So how is it possible that you're getting more back when, let's just assume that everything that they've said is true in terms of the amount you're paying in, and it should be revenue neutral, so you're getting that money back. Let's just assume it's the same. $200 million out of all of that money that's coming in. There's no possible mathematical possibility that that's even coming close. And the fact that the parliamentary budget officer testified at committee the other day that, yes, the majority of Canadians are worse off as a result of the carbon tax. Thank you for confirming what every Canadian already knows when they look in their wallet after they get these rebates. So it is just, it's a hill that they're prepared to die on, presumably. And the only problem is that you have the NDP that are preventing them from sliding off that hill. So, this leads into our next question. So you've interacted with Jagmeet Singh, at least for a little bit in your time in government. What is your take on him? Is he the money grubbing sleaze that everybody is making him out to be? Is he misunderstood? Is it a combination of both, or is it something else?
Well, you want to know what? This is one of the biggest mysteries that I've ever had to deal with in politics. I can't understand his motivation, because it seems to me to be political suicide. He is, gotten in bed with a very corrupt government. His own base has to be eroding because of that, and I cannot comprehend why he continues to prop up this government when they're scandal-ridden, when they, like I said, they're out of touch with the common Canadian, when they've betrayed our allies overseas. It just seems to me that, I can't get into his head, because none of it makes sense. None of it's prudent. he'll have to answer at some point why he went on month after month after month after year and continue to support a government like this.
Well, and so many of our viewers feel like they've lost hope because he's continuing to support this government after Canadians are saying we want an election, and they feel like, I guess they're not captains of our own ship, you know what I mean? So what is something like concrete that we as Canadians can do right now to make things better?
Well, I think one of the things that obviously you're you both, Safer and Fox, are pulling your weight. I think making sure that people know is number one. I think number two is to make sure that whether they have a Liberal or Conservative or NDP member of Parliament, that they communicate with them often and let them know how they feel about the different issues. I mean, this could be solved very quick if Jagmeet Singh, or look, I thought there's got to be some idealistic, principled people in the Liberal caucus who would stand up one day and just vote against their party. So it's look, the NDP are guilty of this, but there's also lots of members in that party that should be, how would I say, a lot more forthright and honest and speak out against. Some of them have, and some of them have retracted when they have spoken out. But there should be many more who have heard from their own constituents and how tough life is with inflation, with the carbon tax, and they should be speaking out and voting against some of these initiatives.
Well, and on that note, I'm not sure if you saw, but on, I believe it was March 19th, after the vote that the NDP put forward, the motion to recognize Palestine as a state, Anthony Housefather came out and had said that he'd felt completely isolated from many of his colleagues. He was very unhappy with his government, and he said that he needed some time to reflect on his position. And that's where Fox and I are kind of, hoping that there is some decency left in some of those Liberal MPs. I wouldn't call Anthony Housefather a backbencher. So it's actually good to see, one of the more prominent MPs speak up. But they need more people like him to look at. Okay, so if the NDP party is looking to do this now, what else are they looking to do in the next 16 months that I'm not going to agree with, that are going to drastically conflict with my personal beliefs? And if I stand by and do nothing, I'm letting it happen. So so we're seeing cracks. We saw a bit of cracks with Mr. McDonald up in Newfoundland.
Yeah.
And then he was subsequently quieted by Trudeau, but we did see the Atlantic Liberal MPs lead a bit of a revolt and get a carbon tax carve out. So there are cracks there. The question is what's going to be enough? And I think, to your point, I think that's what Canadians need to do. It's not just a one-time communication. It's repeated, once a week or once a month, something. And that way they see thousands upon thousands of Canadians have had it. And because the other thing that has come to light, have you seen the alleged secret report from the RCMP about the concern that they have about a possible, let's just say, Canadian unrest as a result of the economic situation that Canadians may not be fully aware of? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it. Saw it on social media, I think 48 hours ago. Of course, if you're on social media, no matter what channel, that report from the RCMP isn't any surprise. You
Yes.
can see the unrest very, very clearly on the comments that people are making. And of course, the convoy was the first, how would we say, to shout across the bow that there's big issues that you're not paying attention to. And unfortunately, this government just walks blindly along with the Ottawa shutters over their eyes and not realizing that people are suffering. So I hope there's cracks. I suspect that there are, just in this election bill that was passed with extending the election after the time where all the new members would qualify for a pension. I'm certain that this is probably seen by Trudeau as, hey, this is my gift to you. If you stick with me and you stay loyal, I'll make sure you're looked after. Of course, that's going to hit the Canadian public in the wallet as well, because now you're going to have people who didn't qualify under the regular rules of the electoral calendar for a pension will.
Yeah, and yeah, with a Canadian populace that is none too thrilled about how much government costs now, never mind about the extra millions of dollars that we're going to be paying for the rest of our lives as a result of these people getting a pension, and some would say undeservedly so. Now, there are some other factors to potentially moving, the election date. Now, they could move it a week ahead, because I believe, Fox had told me that there's a election in Alberta on that same day. Diwali's on that same day. So, why would you not move it ahead? Because to me, the whole point of the date being where it is to force MPs to have to get elected again, do some work in order to earn that pension. Is that your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was set up obviously years ago with the understanding that there'd have to be a minimum of 6 years of pension contribution, which MPs do, to make sure that it was appropriate for them to get a pension. If they don't qualify for a pension, by the way, they still get a severance package of half a year's salary if they lose the election. So. We don't turn these folks out from Ottawa, broken, penniless.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah, they do, and it's just another one of the added to the number of scandals that you already mentioned. To manipulate election dates, to make sure that people qualify for pensions is just so self-serving. It's just. As you said, Canadians will just have another reason to be annoyed and frustrated and angry.
Well, and it seems the Conservatives are in line or supportive of, I would say, ensuring that Canadians know all of these scandals. There looks to be a planned, I will say, activity on April 6th, where they want, I think, Canadians across Canada to join with them and spreading the awareness of the carbon tax increase, and go door knocking across the country. And from what we're starting to hear, there may be some organized protests starting as of April 1st on the carbon tax. So this is the. I think this is the beginning of what the RCMP fears is going to be coming. It's going to be peaceful. But if they continue on like this, that's where I think people get concerned.
Yeah, and they should be concerned. I mean, the whole notion of the carbon tax was ill thought out. And look, I mean, there's not even any defense in regards to the nature of emissions in the country. I mean, we're the worst performing country in the G7. Emissions have not gone down at all. And if you believe, by the way, that climate change is caused by it's anthropomorphic and caused by humans. There's absolutely nothing that this tax is doing other than extracting money from Canadians inappropriately.
So you're out in rural New Brunswick. What's the feeling like there with the cost of living and the carbon tax? Because I imagine it's probably different from suburban Ontario where we are.
Much different. I mean, you've got a median income that's probably 50% less than Ontario. You don't have as soon as you get into rural areas, you don't have any transit, so you're stuck using your own car, your own vehicle to get to and from your work, and so you're subject to the indirect carbon tax, which I mentioned, on everything that has to be brought to market for goods and services, you're paying for it. Businesses have to pass that down because they have to make a profit, and you're paying for it directly when you pull your car up to the pump and have to refuel. So it's being felt very acutely here, and in fact, so much so, you know that the Atlantic provinces got a break on the carbon tax on heating fuel. Of course, the rest of the provinces in Canada didn't, but the Atlantic provinces did because their voices were loud and clear on the inappropriateness of taxing people who have to survive Arctic-style winters to heat their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have 7 out of 10 provincial premiers that have come forward and have demanded this, including Liberal premiers. What do you think? I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but what do you think prompted them to do that?
Well, I think, just rather than go through everything I mentioned, I think, just because they can see there's little efficacy in the whole thing, that it's crippling their citizens. They're hearing from their own constituents about the cost, and for them, it's just another grab from the federal government that doesn't really impact any aspect positively of the lifestyle of their constituents. So why pay it?
For sure. And so it just underscores for everybody listening, you may think you're only one person, but one person in addition to another person, in addition to another 10, another 100, another 1,000 that all have the same like-minded approach, you can make a very big difference in this country. Now, you may see that your MP, who may not be favorable to your political standpoint, doesn't write you back. That doesn't matter. The fact that you're still picking up that pen, you're still going to your laptop and writing those letters, that is going to have an impact, because it sends them one additional data point outside of the professional pollsters that are out there and lets them know in a real tangible way what goes on. And they are going to be read by somebody, even if it's a staffer, and they need to.
On that note, let me mention something that I've mentioned 1,000 times to constituents. So, having been an MP who was in my own office for almost 16 years, when you actually write an email from your own heart with your own words, and you send it to a member of parliament, if they are even remotely responsible, our staff always brought me. If they're, you always knew the difference between a campaign email. They're all the same. They're all, you knew how to treat those things, and they would be brought to me by the bundle. But anything that's originally penned, or in this case keyboarded, and was brought to my desk for me to read individually. So it does make a difference. And look, if you're not motivated for yourself, because I know a lot of people, they feel uncomfortable getting involved in political conversations, or talking to their member of parliament, or their MLA or MPP or their councillor. Look, do it for your children and grandchildren, because when a government like this racking up this kind of debt, we're not going to pay for it. Our kids and our grandkids are going to pay for it. So if you're not motivated for yourself, and if it's not affecting the lifestyle that you're living right now because you're more well off, well then do it for your kids and your grandkids, because they're going to have a harder time, because this debt is going to have to be paid, and it's always going to be there until it's retired. And obviously, any government in the future is going to have to pull in their belt in order to be able to deal with this, or the cost to maintain a debt will be so great, the services will be drastically cut anyway.
Well, I think that's probably a really good moment to end it on, David, because that's the message that we really want to get out to Canadians is this government belongs to you, this country belongs to you, and unfortunately the debt also belongs to you as well. So it's time for Canadians to stand up and start ensuring that we are acting like the custodians that we can be, and that means participate in demonstrations, write your MP regularly, doesn't matter who it is, and you can even do what we do and write MPs of other ridings as well, and let them know, because the more communication, the better in this case. So but thank you very much, Mr. Sweet, for joining us. This won't be the last, but it's always great to talk to you and get your insights that are oh so valuable in this tumultuous time. Thank you.
Thank you, David.